Welcome. I'm truly grateful to have you here. Please, make yourself comfortable and take your time. This story was crafted with care, dedication, and deep respect for your attention. I hope it brings you joy, reflection, and perhaps even a touch of nostalgia. Once again, thank you for sharing a moment of your day with me. The year is 33 AD. You find yourself in Jerusalem, under a sun that presses down with relentless intensity, baking the very air you breathe. Your sandals barely offer protection from the blistering heat radiating off the packed earth. And with every single step, you feel it. The coarse grit of Jerusalem's dust underfoot. It's not just dirt, no. It's a fine, tenacious powder, the exact color of dried clay and ancient sun-baked stone, and it instantly coats everything. You breathe it in, a dry, mineral taste settling on your tongue, and you can almost feel its rough texture clinging to the back of your throat, a constant, subtle presence. It swirls around your ankles, a living cloud kicked up by countless feet, your own, those of merchants haggling loudly in guttural tones, donkeys laden with overflowing baskets, and children darting like quicksilver through the dense throngs. The air hangs thick with it, blurring the sharp edges of the monumental sun-bleached stone buildings. You swipe a hand across your brow, and the dust mixes instantly with the sweat, forming a thin, muddy film that irritates your skin. It cakes your eyelashes, making you blink rapidly and often as you struggle to navigate the narrow, winding alleys that seem to twist endlessly ahead. The light itself seems filtered through this pervasive golden haze, giving everything a sepia-toned quality, a timeless, almost dreamlike filter over reality. You push past a group of men, their simple robes already dusty from the morning's travels, their faces etched with the same weary perseverance you feel growing deep within you. Their eyes meet yours for a fleeting moment, a silent, shared understanding of the arduous journey, both physical and perhaps spiritual, that seems to bind every soul in this ancient city. You feel the rough, unyielding texture of a cool stone wall as you brace yourself, quickly avoiding a fast-moving cart piled high with goods, rumbling dangerously close. The sun glares mercilessly off the white plaster, almost blinding you, yet the deep, inviting shadows in the deepest crevices offer a momentary, tantalizing reprieve from the oppressive heat, a brief, cool embrace. Every muscle in your legs aches, a dull, persistent throb that intensifies with each uphill climb, each ascent a minor battle. The ground itself is relentlessly uneven, a chaotic patchwork of worn, ancient stones and hard-packed earth, each unexpected divot, a potential misstep, a twist of the ankle. You feel the small, sharp pebbles shift and grind beneath your weight, a constant gritty massage against the protesting soles of your feet. This dust isn't just a nuisance, it's a living, breathing part of the city, a silent witness to millennia of footsteps, whispered prayers, and momentous, life-altering events. It gets into your hair, settles stubbornly on your clothes, and soon becomes a second skin, a tangible, inescapable connection to the very ground you walk on. You can almost taste the history embedded in its countless particles, the echoes of countless lives woven inextricably into its ancient, granular fabric. This isn't just dust, it's the very soul of Jerusalem, clinging to you, marking your intimate passage through its sacred, sun-drenched, and eternally vibrant streets. If this story resonates with you, please like and subscribe. I'm curious, where in the world are you listening from, And what time is it there? Share in the comments. A sudden, almost unnatural quiet falls around you, pressing in from all sides. It isn't true silence, not in Jerusalem, not ever. But the usual cacophony, the riot of voices, the clang of tools, the braying of donkeys, the incessant clamor of the marketplace, it has all softened as if a thick, unseen cloth has been draped over the entire city. You notice it instantly because it's so profoundly out of place, an unsettling absence that prickles the back of your neck. You pause, your own footsteps suddenly deafening on the gritty ground, and you listen. What you hear instead is a low, persistent thrum, a collective hum. It's the sound of 1,000 people holding their breath, a deep, resonant vibration that seems to emanate from the very stones around you, reverberating through the soles of your feet. It feels like the city itself has taken a deep, slow inhale and is now simply waiting. You turn your head slowly, observing the faces around you. No one is shouting. The merchants, typically boisterous and insistent, now stand by their stalls with an uncharacteristic stillness, their hands resting loosely on their wares, their gaze fixed on some unseen point further down the street, or perhaps on the distant shimmering haze that cloaks the city's highest points. You catch the eye of an old woman, her face a roadmap of ancient sorrows and weathered resilience, and in her dark eyes you see a flicker of apprehension, a deep-seated worry that resonates with your own burgeoning unease. Her mouth is a thin, tight line. The air, thick with the scent of spices, sweat, and burning oil, now seems to carry an additional, almost metallic tang, the scent of anticipation, of collective tension. You can feel it tightening your chest, making your own breath shallow and careful. The low hum intensifies, becoming less a sound and more a palpable pressure in your ears, a shared internal rhythm. It's a current running through the narrow alleyways, pulling everyone in the same direction, toward an unspoken focal point. A child, usually playful and darting, clings tightly to a mother's robe, peeking out with wide, solemn eyes, his small hand gripping so hard that his knuckles are white. You push forward, drawn by the invisible pull, the magnetic force of this shared stillness. Every few steps, another person joins the silent, watchful crowd, their movements slow, deliberate, almost reverent. The hum pulses, a deep, resonant bass note in the city's symphony, signaling a moment of profound significance, a turning point. It's a sound that doesn't need explanation, because you feel it deep in your bones. Jerusalem is holding its breath, collectively braced for something momentous to unfold, and you are right there, part of that potent, silent, electric anticipation. The air, already thick with the city's unique, earthy perfume and the lingering, unsettling hum from moments ago, now assaults your senses with a dizzying, complex blend of odors. It's a physical punch, almost. You're hit first by the pungent, almost sweet stench of damp wool and manure, a potent ammonia tang that makes your nose prickle and your eyes water just a bit. You can practically feel the sticky residue of 1,000 hooves and the agitated breath of penned animals on your skin. These aren't just a few strays. You're surrounded by the undeniable presence of livestock, penned close, their nervous shuffles and low bleats now more pronounced, cutting through the prior stillness. But this isn't simply a farmyard. Beneath that raw, primal animal musk, there's another layer, richer and more exotic, trying its best to assert dominance. It's the heady, warm aroma of spices, cumin and coriander, sharp and earthy, blending with the sweeter notes of dried fruits and expensive saffron. They mingle, clashing and merging, creating a dynamic, almost overwhelming perfumed cloud that catches in your throat. You taste it, a dry, warm explosion of flavor on your tongue that struggles to cut through the underlying unpleasantness. It's a battle of scents, a constant push and pull between the sacred and the profane, the essence of daily life and something wilder, less domesticated. And then there's something else, a subtler, colder edge to the air. It's not a smell you can name from a spice rack or a stable. No, this is the acrid, metallic tang of fear. It's in the sharp, quick glances exchanged between the people jostling around you, in the way a man grips his wife's arm a little too tightly, in the almost imperceptible tremor in the air itself. You perceive it not just through your nose, but through a tightening in your stomach, a chill that has nothing to do with the sun's relentless heat. It's the scent of adrenalized bodies, of collective apprehension. It's subtle, but undeniable, like a metallic aftertaste that permeates every other aroma, tinting them with a new, unsettling quality. You find yourself pressing closer to a stone wall, seeking a momentary anchor in the swirling chaos. The rough-hewn stone feels cool and solid under your palm, a stark contrast to the living, breathing, smelling tumult that surrounds you. As you push through the densely packed bodies, the fabrics of robes brush against you. Coarse linen, rough wool, the occasional silk, each carrying its own faint human scent, now all blended with the prevailing mix of animal, spice, and that strange, almost chemical tang of dread. Your breath catches, a fleeting sense of claustrophobia threatening to overwhelm you amidst the overwhelming sensory input. The pungent mix isn't just a collection of smells anymore. It's a living, breathing tapestry of this charged moment, woven with everything from life's sustenance to its deepest, most primal anxieties. The air, already thick with dust and the lingering trace of animals and spices, now carries an entirely new, almost imperceptible flavor. It settles on your tongue, a dry, bitter sensation that hints at metal and ancient earth, a taste you can only describe as a kind of waiting. It's not food, not drink, but a pervasive, subtle bitterness, a taste of profound unease that seems to permeate everything, a Passover tension you could almost chew on. You feel it in the way the crowds move, no longer just jostling, but now with a heavy, deliberate pace, each step laden with unspoken significance. Heads are bowed, eyes cast downward, but every so often a quick, furtive glance darts towards the distant, imposing ramparts of the Roman fortress, or towards a cloaked figure hurrying past, as if searching for an answer, or perhaps a threat. The usual marketplace chatter, which had simply softened before, has now truly receded, replaced by a low murmur, a constant hum of quiet contemplation that feels less like anticipation and more like solemnity. There's a tightness in your jaw, an unconscious clenching of your teeth that mirrors the palpable tension around you. It's as if the sheer weight of history, the stories of liberation and sacrifice tied to this sacred feast, are pressing down on the very stones, permeating the light itself. The sun, still high and blinding, seems to cast longer, sharper shadows, making the alleyways feel narrower, the escape routes less clear. Every brick, every uneven cobblestone, seems to absorb and radiate this particular flavor of tension, making the entire city feel brittle, fragile. You pass a group of men gathered near an archway, their faces etched with a gravity that feels too deep for mere worry. One man slowly turns a small, unidentifiable object over and over in his calloused hands, his gaze distant, lost in thought, or perhaps in prayer. Another runs a thumb across his dry lips, a nervous gesture that speaks volumes without a single word. You feel a familiar, ancient tremor of significance ripple through you, a connection to generations who have felt this same mixture of solemn remembrance and present danger during this very feast. The dryness in your mouth intensifies, a silent echo of the city's collective held breath, tasting not just of the dust, but of fate, of sacrifice, and of an ancient promise, now tinged with a stark and imminent dread. This is not just a holiday, it's a crucible, and you are standing right in its heart. The humid air, heavy and still, suddenly cracks with an unfamiliar sound. Not a shout, not a cry, but a single, sharp, resonant echo, like a stone dropped into an impossibly deep well. It rings out, cold and clear, cutting through the collective hum of the crowd, through the lingering taste of dread on your tongue. It's the echo of a Roman sentence, delivered in a language you don't fully understand, yet its meaning washes over you instantly, chilling you to the bone. You find yourself pushed forward, almost involuntarily, by the surging mass of bodies. The dense crowd moves with a singular, terrible purpose now, drawn toward a wide, open courtyard paved with large, uneven stones. Each stone gleams faintly under the relentless sun, polished smooth by countless footsteps, yet now reflecting only a harsh, unforgiving light. The sheer weight of human bodies presses in on you, making it difficult to breathe, a wall of flesh and nervous energy. You feel the rough, damp fabric of someone's tunic brush against your cheek, the sharp, almost desperate scent of their sweat filling your nostrils. The echo, though fading, seems to reverberate not just in the air, but within the very stones beneath your feet. It's a sound that holds the weight of imperial power, of absolute authority, a cold, unfeeling judgment that feels utterly alien to the sacred, familiar dust of Jerusalem. You crane your neck, straining to see over the bobbing heads. There, at the far end of the courtyard, beneath an imposing archway, stand figures in Roman armor, their polished breastplates glinting, reflecting the sun like shards of ice. Their rigid stance, their impersonal faces, are like sharp, cruel angles against the soft, desperate contours of the crowd. A ripple of motion goes through the masses, a collective gasp, then a renewed, deeper hum of murmurs. You can't make out the words, but the mood is undeniable. A heavy cloak of inevitability has descended. You feel a prickling sensation on your skin, a phantom chill despite the heat, as if the cold, hard logic of Roman law has seeped into the very air. The echo of that single, definitive sound, that sentence, hangs in the space, a permanent fixture in the stone courtyard, a chilling testament to power, fate, and the crushing weight of an irreversible decision. It marks a moment, a definitive end, yet you feel it also marks a beginning, a terrible turning point in the silent, seething heart of the city. A suffocating quiet descends, even heavier and more profound than the hum that came before. It's not just an absence of sound, but a tangible presence, pressing in on your chest, making it difficult to draw a full breath. The air, once merely thick with dust and tension, now feels dense, almost viscous, as if a great, unseen weight has settled upon the entire courtyard. This is the unmistakable weight of a verdict, a heavy, irreversible decision that seems to suck all the light and hope from the immediate surroundings. You feel a sudden chill run through you, despite the relentless sun still beating down. It's a coldness that penetrates deeper than skin, straight to your bones, a stark contrast to the previous heat. The wide, open space, moments ago filled with surging, anxious bodies, now feels strangely hollow, cavernous, yet simultaneously claustrophobic. The sheer magnitude of what has just been declared hangs in the very particles of dust still suspended in the air, transforming them from mere grit into silent, solemn witnesses. Around you, the crowd shifts, not with the earlier restless energy, but with a slow, almost reluctant movement, like a single, grief-stricken organism. Shoulders slump. Heads hang low, obscuring faces, as if trying to hide from the grim reality. You catch a glimpse of an elderly woman, her hands clasped tightly together, her knuckles white against her dark skin, a single tear tracing a clean path down her dusty cheek. There's no anger now, no shouts of protest, only a profound, collective resignation that feels like a physical blow. The vast stone courtyard, which had seemed to pulse with life and nervous energy, now feels like a tomb. Each individual stone beneath your sandals seems to absorb and reflect this crushing despondency, radiating a bleak, cold energy. You find your own posture mirroring the defeat around you, your shoulders tightening, a dull ache settling in your neck. The silence is punctuated only by the soft, ragged sound of collective sighs, whispers that are too faint to discern, and the occasional, heartbreaking sob that quickly dissipates into the oppressive quiet. This verdict isn't just words. It's an invisible, crushing force that has settled upon Jerusalem, altering the very fabric of the day, leaving behind a bitter, indelible imprint on the air, a burden you can feel pressing down on every single soul present. A searing, splintering pain explodes across your shoulder, raw and exposed. It's not a dull ache, but an immediate, violent friction, as if coarse, untreated wood is being ground directly into an open wound. You feel the exact moment the heavy, uneven crossbeam slams down, pressing deep into the tender flesh, and you instinctively flinch, a sharp gasp catching in your throat. This isn't just weight, it's a living torment, each jagged edge of the roughly hewn timber digging in, scraping against skin that is already chafed and burning. You can practically visualize the splinters, tiny, sharp needles of wood, biting into your flesh, twisting with every minute shift of the immense burden. The raw, almost acidic smell of freshly cut, unseasoned wood fills your nostrils, mingling with the metallic tang of sweat and something else, something visceral and sickly sweet, that you recognize as your own anguish. Your muscles scream in protest, shaking violently as you struggle to find a purchase, to adjust to this agonizing weight that threatens to buckle your knees. The rough, thick beam digs into the precise spot where the previous blows landed, making the pain 1,000 times worse, a red-hot brand that refuses to dissipate. Your breath comes in short, ragged bursts, each inhale a desperate battle, each exhale a forced grunt. You feel the grit of the Jerusalem dust, now mixed with sweat and the faint trace of blood, clinging to your face, making your skin itch, but the agony in your shoulder consumes all other sensations. Your vision blurs at the edges, the frantic movement of the crowd around you becoming a distorted, swirling mass of color and shadow. Roman soldiers, their faces impassive beneath their helmets, stand nearby, their heavy boots thudding on the unforgiving stone, their presence a constant, chilling reminder of the utter lack of recourse, the absolute power that has condemned you to this excruciating journey. Every step you take is a monumental effort, a new assault on your ravaged shoulder. The crossbeam shifts, even slightly, and a fresh wave of agony washes over you, forcing a stifled cry from your lips. You can hear your own heart hammering against your ribs, a frantic, desperate rhythm matching the slow, arduous progress. The rough, splintered wood feels like a consuming fire, burning from the inside out, yet you are compelled forward, driven by the relentless, unyielding press of circumstance. The weight isn't just in the wood, it's in the air, in the silent, horrified glances of the crowd, in the crushing finality of your path, all coalescing into the single, unbearable reality of the splintered roughness of a crossbeam on a raw, suffering shoulder. Your calves are screaming now, a sharp, insistent burn that gnaws at you with every agonizing movement. It's a deep, vibrating tremor that starts in the sinews behind your knees and shoots all the way down to your raw, blistering heels. Each step is not merely a lift and a fall. It's a monumental act of will, a desperate hoisting of your entire body against the crushing burden of the crossbeam that digs relentlessly into your shoulder. You feel the overwhelming strain of every muscle, from your quivering thighs to your aching lower back, all of them protesting, pulling, threatening to give out beneath you. The ground, still a chaotic mix of sharp stones and loose baking dust, feels like a bed of embers under your feet. Your sandals, already worn and thin, offer almost no protection, and you can feel the searing heat radiating upwards, blistering the soles of your feet. It's a relentless burning pain that ignites with each clumsy forward motion, a fiery ring around your arches, a dull, throbbing ache in your toes. You try to shift your weight, to find some momentary relief, but there is none. Every single point of contact with the unforgiving earth is a fresh assault, a new wave of agony. Your breath is ragged, coming in shallow, desperate gasps that do little to cool the fire in your lungs. You can hear the strained, desperate sound of your own breathing loud in your ears, mingled with the rhythmic thud of your worn feet on the dusty path. Sweat streams down your face, stinging your eyes, mixing with the ever-present grit of Jerusalem to form a muddy, irritating mask. You can feel it running down your back, cold and clammy one moment, then hot and itchy the next, clinging to the heavy fabric of your tunic. Your body feels like a furnace, radiating heat, yet a strange, internal coldness still threatens to consume you. The edges of your vision swim, blurring the faces of the silent, watching crowd into indistinct shapes. They are just shadows now, observing, judging, their individual features lost to the haze of exhaustion and pain. Your legs tremble uncontrollably, threatening to give way with each wobbly stride. You focus on the rough, uneven ground directly in front of you, a small, immediate goal with each desperate step. The burning of every step, the relentless pressure on your shoulder, the raw, chafed skin, the deep, pervasive ache in your very bones. It's a symphony of suffering, each note an insistent, unbearable demand from a body pushed far beyond its limits. And still, you must move forward. A sickening, sharp clang rips through the heavy, suffocating air. It's a raw, brutal sound, the unmistakable metallic strike of a heavy hammer meeting unforgiving iron, and it lacerates the silence with surgical precision. The sound isn't distant. It's right there, shockingly close, reverberating through your bones, making every nerve ending in your body recoil in an instant. Involuntary flinch. Your breath hitches, caught somewhere deep in your chest. A sharp, icy knot. You feel the impact of the sound physically. A jolt that travels up from the ground beneath your bare feet, through your legs, and into your very core. It's a vibration, cold and menacing, that makes your teeth ache and the small hairs on your arms stand on end. The first clang is immediately followed by another, then another, a relentless, rhythmic assault that drills into your skull, each strike a brutal echo of the one before it. The sound is utterly devoid of warmth, mechanical and cruel, cutting through the murmurs of the stunned crowd like a blade. Your eyes, already stinging from the dust and sweat, widen in horror. You crane your neck, pushing against the unyielding press of bodies, desperate to see, yet simultaneously wishing you could simply shut it all out. What you glimpse through the gaps in the crowd confirms your darkest fears. The glint of a dark, heavy hammer rising and falling, a flash of something unyielding being driven into wood. The scent of hot metal, faintly acrid, now mingles with the ever-present dust and the pungent smell of fear, a truly sickening cocktail that catches in the back of your throat. The crowd around you, previously a sea of collective resignation, now seems to convulse with a raw, guttural agony. You hear sharp intakes of breath, stifled gasps, and the sudden heart-wrenching sob of a woman near you, her hands flying to cover her mouth, as if to muffle the sounds or perhaps her own cries. You feel a wave of nausea roll through you, your stomach twisting into a tight knot. Your own hands clench instinctively, nails digging into your palms. A futile attempt to ground yourself against the unbearable reality that these metallic clangs represent. Each strike of the hammer is not just a sound. It's a physical blow, a visceral assault on every person present, hammering home the brutal, irreversible finality of this moment, echoing the very pain it inflicts. A white-hot, indescribable agony explodes through you, shattering every fiber of your being. It's not merely pain. It's a searing, rending fire, a bolt of pure, annihilating force that seems to tear through the very core of your existence. You feel it in an instant, a sharp, piercing shock that begins in your hand, tearing through flesh and bone with unimaginable force, and then surges, lightning fast, up your arm, across your shoulder, and slams into the center of your chest. This isn't just a physical wound. It's a complete visceral invasion, an unholy fusion of tearing, burning, and crushing that redefines what pain truly means. Your body arches violently, an involuntary spasm that rips a strangled gasp from your throat, a sound you barely recognize as your own. Every muscle locks, rigid and trembling, fighting against an invisible, irresistible force. The rough wood beneath your back presses into raw, abraded skin, but that sensation is utterly swallowed by the monstrous agony that dominates your awareness. Your vision blurs, the world around you dissolving into a kaleidoscope of meaningless light and shadow, your mind struggling to grasp anything beyond this all-consuming torment. A metallic taste, sharp and sickening, floods your mouth, mingling with the dust and grit. A taste of sheer, unadulterated suffering. You feel a profound sense of violation, a complete loss of control. the world outside this agonizing sensation ceases to exist. The murmurs of the crowd, the distant shouts of the Roman guards, the relentless sun beating down, all of it fades into an indistinct hum, distant and irrelevant. There is only this singular, all-encompassing white-hot fire, radiating from the point of impact, spreading relentlessly through your veins, electrifying every nerve ending. Each breath you attempt to draw is a shallow, painful struggle, your chest muscles constricting, refusing to expand, as if in league with the torment. Your hands clench, nails digging deep into your palms, a desperate, futile attempt to exert some control, any control, over the overwhelming onslaught. But there is none. You are entirely at its mercy, a prisoner within your own body, experiencing a raw, primal agony that strips away thought, memory, and identity, leaving only the brutal, inescapable reality of pure, unadulterated suffering. This isn't a pain you can endure. It's a pain that reshapes you, burns you, and redefines the very limits of human torment. A sharp, white-hot agony that sears itself into your very soul. A rough, soaked sponge brushes against your cracked, sun-baked lips. The immediate, overwhelming sensation is a violent assault on your senses, a taste so shockingly bitter and sour it makes your entire body convulse. It's a harsh, vinegar-like sting that instantly floods your parched mouth, followed by a deeper, more insidious bitterness that spreads across your tongue. The unmistakable, acrid taste of gall mingled with cheap, sour wine. It's an almost unbearable combination, a cruel mockery of refreshment that instead deepens the profound discomfort, an insult to your already ravaged body. Your throat, raw and constricted, struggles to even partially swallow the offensive liquid. It burns on its way down, a fire that adds to the inferno already raging within you, offering no relief, only a further descent into misery. The dryness that has plagued you for hours, an insistent, burning thirst, is not quenched, but instead amplified by this bitter draught, making your mouth feel even more like sandpaper. Your tongue, swollen and cracked, recoils from the assault, leaving an unpleasant, lingering aftertaste that promises to cling there for an eternity. You feel a flicker of rage, a desperate, animalistic protest against this torment, even as your body sags, heavy and helpless. The effort to even recoil from the sponge sends a fresh wave of agony through your strained muscles, a sharp, searing reminder of your predicament. The faces around you, blurry and indistinct, seem to swim in and out of focus, some showing pity, others indifference, and some a cruel, morbid fascination. Their murmurs are a distant, meaningless drone, utterly overshadowed by the vivid, disgusting taste that now dominates every fiber of your awareness. The smell of the sour wine, a stale, heavy scent, hangs in the air directly beneath your nose, adding to the pervasive feeling of nausea. It mixes with the coppery tang of your own blood, the sharp, raw smell of wood, and the ever-present dust of Jerusalem, creating a sickening olfactory tableau. Each breath you take seems to draw that vile taste further into your lungs, coating them in its bitterness. This isn't just a drink. It's a symbolic act of cruelty, a final, ungracious offering that serves only to deepen your physical and spiritual anguish. It's the taste of abandonment, of suffering without solace, the profound, burning bitterness of sour wine and gall on a parched tongue. The brutal, acrid taste of the gall and sour wine clings to your mouth, coating your tongue and throat like a foul, stubborn film. It's a burning, caustic presence that refuses to recede, intensifying the dryness, scraping against your raw palate, a constant, sickening reminder of the mercy offered. But then, an odd, almost imperceptible shift begins to take hold. Not a wave of true relief. No, nothing so gentle or comforting. Instead, a peculiar, heavy dullness starts to creep in, spreading from the deepest core of your being, slowly radiating outwards. It's a bitter mercy, a strange, chemical haze that attempts to settle over the sharp, insistent screams of your ravaged body, a deceptive quietude that feels entirely unearned. The edges of your vision, which moments ago were a frantic, swirling blur of pain-induced light and shadow, now soften, becoming less defined, almost hazy and distant. The distinct, searing agony in your hands and feet, though still profoundly present, feels momentarily muted, as if a thick, unseen veil, woven from exhaustion and this bitter draught, has been drawn between the raw, screaming nerves and your struggling consciousness. It's a bizarre, unsettling trick of the senses, you realize, a momentary, fragile retreat from the sheer, overwhelming volume of torment that has consumed you. A brief, almost hallucinatory calm descends in the very eye of the storm, an eerie stillness. Your breathing, which had been a desperate, ragged, shallow struggle, now becomes fractionally slower, deeper, an almost imperceptible easing of the relentless, desperate effort. You feel the heavy thrum of your heart, no longer frantic but a slow, weary, almost resigned beat against your ribs. The cacophony of the crowd, the jeers, the distant barking shouts of the Roman guards, they all become strangely muffled, indistinct, as if you've suddenly plunged into a deep, silent pool, the sounds barely penetrating the surface. For a precious, fleeting moment, the relentless, multi-pronged assault of sensation diminishes, replaced by this strange internal quiet, this harsh, chemical peace. This isn't solace, you understand that much clearly. It's a harsh, unyielding reprieve, born not of comfort, but of the overwhelming toxic impact of the concoction you were given. The profound bitterness of the taste itself remains, a constant, sharp reminder of the cruel offering, yet it acts as a bizarre counterpoint, its own burning demanding full attention, briefly diverting your mind from the other consuming fires. You feel your muscles, still stretched and aching, release a minuscule amount of their relentless tension, a subconscious, involuntary surrender to this temporary, poisoned balm. It's a fleeting, bitter mercy, a short, dizzying dance on the precarious edge of oblivion, a singular moment where the sheer intensity of one torment paradoxically offers a minuscule, unwelcome respite from another, before the full, unyielding reality of your suffering inevitably rushes back in, even more sharply for the momentary absence. It's a cruel trick, yet for that brief, fragile space, it's all you have left. Your chest feels like it's caught in an iron vice, tightening with each excruciating moment, refusing to fully expand. The air around you, once merely thick with dust and the lingering scent of torment, now seems impossibly heavy, a solid, unyielding wall that your lungs desperately claw against. This isn't just shallow breathing. It's a slow, agonizing fight for each and every breath, a brutal, relentless battle for the most fundamental act of life. You feel an overwhelming, crushing weight bearing down on your ribs, making every attempt to inhale a monumental effort. Your diaphragm, once an effortless pump, now feels like a bruised, strained muscle, each contraction sending a fresh wave of sharp, burning pain through your abdomen and back. Your body strains downwards, pulled by gravity, and to draw even a fraction of air, you must push upwards. A desperate, shuddering heave that sends excruciating jolts through your injured limbs. It's a terrible, primal struggle, a constant, losing war against suffocation. Your throat, already raw and dry, feels constricted, closing in on itself, offering scant passage for the air you so desperately crave. Each gasp is a raw, tearing sound, a raspy, desperate intake that offers only momentary, insufficient relief. You can hear the strained, desperate wheezing deep within your own lungs, a sound like dry leaves rustling, a stark contrast to the distant, muffled cries and jeers that now seem to exist in another, far-off world. All focus narrows to this singular, all-consuming struggle. To simply breathe. A wave of dizziness washes over you, your vision flickering at the edges. The bright sun overhead morphing into a pulsating, blinding blur. Your head lolls, heavy and uncontrollable, as your body channels every last ounce of its dwindling energy into this single, agonizing task. You feel a burning in your lungs, a desperate hollow ache that radiates through your entire torso, a constant, chilling reminder of the air you cannot fully draw in, the life that is slowly, painstakingly being denied. Every muscle in your neck, shoulders, and chest screams in protest, strained beyond endurance. Yet still, you instinctively fight, compelled by an instinct older than memory. The slow, agonizing fight for each breath is not just a sensation, it is the entire world, a brutal, relentless rhythm marking the passage of your fading life. The sun above you is no longer a distant, comforting orb. It's a malevolent, blazing eye, directly overhead, relentlessly focused on you, searing into your very soul. It pierces through your eyelids even when you clamp them shut, painting the inside of your vision a furious, pulsating red-orange that throbs with a relentless, painful intensity. This isn't merely light, it's a physical assault. A relentless, white-hot glare that bleeds all color from the world, leaving behind only harsh, blinding contrasts and stark, cruel outlines. You feel the intense, unforgiving heat pressing down on your skull, a suffocating, invisible blanket that cooks the very air around you, making every shallow, desperate breath feel like inhaling dry, searing fire. Your skin, already raw and chafed from hours of torment, now feels like it's actively blistering under this oppressive, unyielding force. The sweat that streams down your face and body, a river of misery, isn't cooling. It's evaporating instantly, almost before it forms, leaving behind only a salty, burning residue that stings your eyes with acidic sharpness and clings to your cracked lips. You can taste that salt, gritty and sharp, mingling with the persistent, unbearable dryness of your throat, amplifying the desperate, unquenchable thirst that gnaws relentlessly at your very core. The air itself shimmers and wavers, a distorted, watery mirage, twisting the shapes of the distant hills and blurring the figures of the stunned crowd, making everything flicker and undulate as if viewed through rising, invisible flames. There is no shade, no momentary reprieve, no corner to hide in. Everywhere you cast your gaze, the brilliant, reflective surfaces of the ancient stone and the baking dust throw the light back at you with renewed, merciless intensity, amplifying the relentless torment. You feel utterly exposed, vulnerable, as if the sun itself is a conscious, cruel entity, directly observing and mocking your agonizing struggle for each breath, amplifying every ache and every throb in your already severely injured body. Each time you instinctively try to squint or turn your head, seeking even a fraction of relief, a fresh wave of blinding, suffocating intensity washes over you, forcing you to surrender to its brutal, inescapable dominion. Your eyes water uncontrollably, yet the tears offer no comfort, only more stinging. Your head throbs with a dull, insistent rhythm, a hammering pulse that mirrors the relentless heat radiating upwards from the scorched ground, through the thin, worn leather of your sandals, into your aching, blistering feet. The overwhelming glare makes the already agonizing fight for breath even harder, as if the heavy light itself is a tangible weight pressing down on your chest, restricting your lungs further, making each gasp a monumental act of defiance against an indifferent sky. You try to focus on anything stable, a distant, unmoving rock, the faint promise of a deeper shadow under a far-off archway. But the sun's dominion is absolute, turning everything into a stark, painful, unwavering tableau of suffering. It's a relentless, unwavering gaze, a blinding physical pressure, the unforgiving glare of the midday sun, stripping away all strength, all hope, all illusion, leaving you utterly bare and burning under its cruel, indifferent eye. This isn't just a natural phenomenon. It's an active tormentor, joining the chorus of pain that consumes you. The air, already thin and heavy, suddenly rips open with a sound that is both utterly foreign and disturbingly intimate. It's an Aramaic cry, a raw, primal burst of sound torn from the deepest part of a suffering throat, vibrating through the parched air with an intensity that seems to shake the very ground beneath your feet. You don't understand the words, not precisely, but the meaning is unmistakable, searing itself into your very soul. Absolute, profound, human despair, stripped bare of all pretense, all hope. It's a guttural, ancient sound, harsh and resonant, cutting through the haze of your own torment like a sharp blade. It's not a scream of anger, nor a wail of physical pain, though it contains echoes of both. No, this is something far deeper, far more devastating. It's the sound of a spirit breaking, of a profound sense of abandonment that chills you even in the scorching heat. You feel it in the pit of your stomach, a cold, sickening clench, as if you've been punched. The metallic taste in your mouth, which you thought could get no worse, now seems to intensify, mirroring the bitter tang of this raw, emotional anguish. Around you, the restless murmurs of the crowd die instantly, replaced by a terrible, breathless silence. Heads turn, slowly, almost reluctantly, toward the source of the sound. You see faces contorted not with anger, but with a mixture of shock and a deep, empathetic horror. A woman near you gasps, a small, choked sound, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide and wet. Even the Roman soldiers, usually impassive, seem to pause, their movements momentarily faltering, caught off guard by the sheer, unadulterated humanity of that sound. It is a cry that transcends language, transcending the brutality of the scene, speaking directly to the most vulnerable, primal part of every listener. The cry reverberates in the space between your ears, a haunting, indelible echo. It feels heavy, almost physical, settling over the scene like a shroud, making the already suffocating air even denser, even more charged with unspoken emotion. Your own shallow, desperate breaths feel suddenly inadequate, swallowed by the sheer magnitude of the despair you've just witnessed, absorbed, even, by this devastating sound. It's a cry that tears at the fabric of the world, a raw, human sound of despair, that asks a question so fundamental, so crushing, that it hangs in the air, unanswered, vibrating with an eternal, agonizing resonance. It is the sound of everything breaking. The raw, echoing Aramaic cry hangs in the air, slowly dissipating, but its impression lingers, a ghost of pure despair. Then, a new sound begins to rise, a shifting, rustling tide of hushed voices. It's a series of confused murmurs, a low, urgent hum that washes over the stunned silence, a ripple of uncertainty spreading through the vast crowd. You can't quite make out individual words at first, but the collective tone is clear, questioning, speculative, a deep-seated confusion that seeks to grapple with the shocking sound they just heard. You lean forward, straining your ears, trying to catch snippets of conversation. The heat, the thirst, the agony in your own body. For a fleeting moment, they recede into the background, overshadowed by this sudden, compelling puzzle. Then, you hear it, distinct and repeated in various tones, passed from one person to another like a frantic whisper in a marketplace. Is he calling for Elijah? It's a query, a suggestion, spoken with a mixture of reverence and bewilderment, the familiar name cutting through the chaotic murmur. The question floats on the dry air, bouncing off the ancient stones, echoing the uncertainty in everyone's eyes. You see people exchange quick, meaningful glances, their brows furrowed, their mouths working silently, as if testing the phrase on their own tongues. Some nod slowly, cautiously, as if the idea offers a sliver of understanding, a traditional framework for interpreting the incomprehensible. Others shake their heads, a subtle, dismissive gesture, indicating disbelief or perhaps a deeper, unspoken discomfort with the notion. The very sound of the name, Elijah, seems to evoke a complex mix of hope, prophecy, and desperate yearning in the hearts of the crowd. A Roman soldier, standing nearby, shifts his weight, his helmeted head tilted slightly, an expression of detached curiosity on his face. He clearly doesn't grasp the significance, the profound theological weight of the name to these people. But for the multitude gathered, it's a crucial interpretative moment, a desperate attempt to find meaning in an unbearable landscape of suffering. You feel the collective mental struggle, the urgent need to categorize, to understand, to frame the raw, devastating cry within their known world. The confused murmurs, "Is he calling for Elijah?" become a tangible force, a wave of collective interpretation that threatens to redefine the meaning of the profound suffering unfolding before their very eyes, swaying in the balance between understanding and a terrifying, world-altering misunderstanding. The profound silence descends not gradually, but like an enormous, invisible hammer striking the world, instantly crushing all sound. It's an absolute, deafening void, a sudden, shocking vacuum that sucks the air from your lungs and leaves you gasping. Every single sound, from the distant shouts of the Roman guards to the hushed murmurs of the crowd, the frantic rustle of robes, even the buzzing of flies and the suffocating heat, all of it vanishes, utterly and completely, as if snipped from existence. You feel it in your ears, a sudden, ringing pressure, a physical sensation of emptiness that's almost painful in its intensity, a chilling contrast to the searing heat still assaulting your skin. Your breath, which had been a desperate, ragged struggle, now seems shockingly loud in your own ears. Each shallow inhale and exhale a jarring intrusion into this unprecedented quiet. You can feel the frantic thump of your own heart against your ribs, a visceral drumbeat that seems to be the only sound left in the entire world, pulsing against the heavy weight of the air. The air, still thick with dust, and the lingering, acrid taste of sour wine and fear, now feels even denser, more palpable, as if the silence itself has gained substance, pressing down on you, suffocating you with its sheer, overwhelming presence. It's a silence that absorbs light, absorbing all motion, all life, into its vast, unyielding maw. Around you, the entire multitude is frozen, arrested in a collective tableau of shock. Bodies that were shifting, heads that were turning, mouths that were forming words, all are now utterly still, like statues carved from the prevailing dread. You see faces etched with a new kind of horror, not the physical agony or confusion from before, but a deep, primal awe, a terror born of the sudden, unnatural cessation of life and sound. An old man, his hand halfway raised to his face in a gesture of bewildered protest, remains perfectly motionless, his eyes wide and unblinking, fixed on the elevated cross, his expression a testament to utter bewilderment. A woman's tear, halfway down her dusty cheek, seems to be suspended in time, gleaming momentarily in the harsh, unchanging sunlight, before finally continuing its slow, inexorable descent. A single, silent witness to the profound stillness. Even the Roman soldiers, typically impassive, seem momentarily transfixed, their rigid poses softened by a flicker of uncertainty. The dust motes, previously swirling and dancing in the sunbeams, now seem to hang motionless, caught in the unnerving stillness, defying the very laws of physics. The unforgiving glare of the midday sun, which was a tormentor before, now feels oddly passive, its light absorbed by the profound quiet, losing some of its sharp, searing edge, lending the scene an almost surreal, muted quality. This silence isn't peaceful. It's immense, dreadful, and utterly final. It's the kind of silence that swallows every other sensation, every thought, every emotion, leaving only a hollow echo in your soul, a terrifying, absolute quiet that marks an undeniable, irreversible end. It is the profound silence after the final word, a void that will forever resonate, carrying within its depths the immeasurable weight of what has just transpired, and the chilling promise of an irrevocably altered future. The profound silence, heavy and suffocating, still presses down on you, but now, within its vast expanse, a subtle shift begins to stir. The stunned, frozen tableau of the crowd slowly dissolves, replaced by hesitant, almost furtive movements. A woman lowers her tear-stained face, wiping her eyes with the back of a trembling hand. A man beside you clears his throat, a dry, rasping sound that feels impossibly loud in the lingering quiet. The air, though still dense with unexpressed emotion, no longer feels utterly devoid of possibility. You notice the way people begin to look at each other, not with the raw horror of before, but with a dawning, shared uncertainty. Whispers, almost inaudible at first, begin to snake through the multitude, like faint currents stirring the still water. It's not the frantic confusion of earlier, but something far more insidious. A quiet, almost imperceptible reshaping of memory, a subtle reinterpretation of what was just heard. The question, that raw, desperate cry, is already beginning to morph. You strain to listen, to grasp the fragments of these new, hushed conversations. You hear a low voice, thick with conviction, saying something about forsaken. Then another, stronger voice repeats the word forsaken. Yes, that's what he said. The emphasis shifts. What was a desperate plea, a poignant question echoing through the Aramaic, is subtly, undeniably, being solidified into a definitive, chilling statement. The inflection of agony, the questioning tone that was so evident just moments ago, seems to be fading, smoothed over by the collective need for clarity, for a narrative that fits, that somehow explains the unbearable finality. You feel a strange, cold prickle on your skin, a sense of witnessing a delicate, irreversible fracture in understanding. The true meaning, born of the raw human sound of despair, is being swallowed by the burgeoning interpretation, slowly twisting into something different, something colder. You see people nod, their expressions now hardened with a grim certainty that wasn't there before. A Roman soldier, who had previously shown a flicker of confusion, now turns away with a shrug, his expression dismissing the entire event as a simple, foregone conclusion. The very air around you, once vibrating with complex sorrow, now seems to resonate with this new, simpler, more absolute declaration. This isn't a sudden dramatic change, but a slow, almost unconscious consensus forming, like sand shifting imperceptibly on the desert floor. It's the insidious process of how a question, born of profound suffering, is remembered as a statement of absolute, irrefutable fact. And as you stand there, feeling the weight of this collective reinterpretation settle, you understand that this quiet, almost undetectable shift in meaning is not just about a final word. It is about the birth of an entirely new understanding, a misunderstanding that will forever reshape the future, fundamentally altering how this moment, and the life that led to it, will be remembered and believed, echoing through centuries. A sudden, unnatural chill bites at your exposed skin, raising goosebumps despite the relentless midday heat that had just moments ago been scorching you. It's a coldness that feels utterly out of place, a physical impossibility under the high sun, and it spreads with alarming speed, creeping inwards, a frigid tendril that coils around your heart. The air itself seems to thicken, growing heavy and oppressive, no longer just with dust, but with an inexplicable, profound darkness that begins to steal the light, not gradually, but with an almost visible swiftness. You look up, squinting, trying to grasp what your senses are telling you. The brilliant, unforgiving glare of the midday sun, which had been a tormentor, is rapidly receding, swallowed by an encroaching, bruised purple-black that spreads across the sky like an ink stain. The shadows lengthen with terrifying speed, distorting familiar shapes, turning the figures in the crowd into indistinct, menacing silhouettes. The entire landscape, moments ago bathed in harsh, blinding light, now plunges into an eerie twilight, a profound darkness that covered the land, a heavy, velvet curtain drawn over the world. It's not simply evening. This is an aggressive, consuming shadow, an active presence that brings with it a sickening, bone-deep cold. A collective gasp ripples through the crowd, a sound of profound awe and fear. You see faces around you, previously etched with grief or morbid curiosity, now contorted in expressions of pure terror. Eyes widen, mouths gape open, as people point upwards, their hands trembling, trying to articulate the impossible spectacle unfolding above them. The murmurs which had just begun to stir with reinterpretation die away completely, replaced by a stunned, horrified silence that is even more profound than before. This isn't the silence of death, but the silence of an apocalypse, of an earth holding its breath in absolute dread. The dust underfoot, which had been dry and baking, now feels strangely damp, as if a cold, unseen mist has settled upon it. The air itself carries a faint, metallic tang, a smell you associate with distant thunderstorms, but this is far more chilling, far more complete. Your own skin prickles with an almost electric unease, your body instinctively recoiling from the sudden, inexplicable drop in temperature. You feel exposed, vulnerable, as if the very fabric of reality is tearing, unraveling before your eyes. The unnatural chill, the oppressive, consuming darkness, the sheer, impossible speed of it all. It's a visceral, terrifying demonstration of a world profoundly, irrevocably altered, a cosmic shudder that signals an event of unimaginable gravity, pressing down on every living soul, an undeniable mark upon the land. The unnatural chill, already a physical presence, now intensifies, cutting deeper, a frigid spear piercing your very core. But then, the stillness that had held the world in its dreadful grip shatters. A low, guttural rumble begins, a sound not from above, but from deep within the earth itself. It starts as a distant growl, a barely perceptible vibration, then swells quickly, rapidly, into a monstrous, bone-shaking roar that rattles your teeth and makes the very ground beneath your feet lurch violently. You stumble, your knees threatening to buckle, throwing your arms out wide to catch your balance, desperately grasping at the shifting air. The familiar, baked earth, usually so stable, suddenly feels like a living, angry beast convulsing beneath you. You can feel the powerful tremor surge through your legs, up your spine, and into your skull. A raw, primal fear seizing your heart, making it hammer against your ribs like a trapped bird. Dust, thick and acrid, erupts from the ground, swirling into choking clouds that mingle with the eerie darkness, further obscuring your vision. The sound of terrified screams, sharp and piercing, rips through the rumbling, not just from the crowd, but from your own throat, a desperate, involuntary cry. Just as the earth's tremor reaches its deafening crescendo, a new sound, impossible and terrifying, tears through the air. It's a colossal, wrenching rip, like the sky itself being shredded open, a sound of impossibly heavy, dense fabric being violently, savagely torn from top to bottom. It's not a natural sound. It's a sound of boundaries breaking, of something ancient and sacred being irrevocably violated. The sound reverberates from the direction of the great temple, an echoing, dreadful tearing that seems to echo within your very soul, signifying a rupture not just in space but in the very fabric of the spiritual world. The oppressive darkness, already profound, seems to deepen instantaneously, swallowing what little light remained, plunging the world into an almost absolute blackness, broken only by the frantic flashes of lightning that now streak across the bruised sky. You hear the panicked shouts of the Roman guards, their voices laced with a terror that matches your own, their rigid formation breaking as they struggle to stay upright. People are falling around you, screaming, pushing, a chaotic, terrified wave of humanity scrambling for purchase, for understanding, for any escape from this overwhelming apocalyptic onslaught of sensation. The rumble of the earth, the tearing of the veil. They are not just events, they are a direct, visceral assault on your every sense, on your every belief, on the very notion of order in the universe, an undeniable, horrifying revelation of the world irrevocably broken. The air around you is thick, heavy, and strangely still, carrying a potent, almost cloying perfume that immediately assails your senses. It's the unmistakable, earthy sweet scent of myrrh, mingling with something dry and clean, the sharp, familiar aroma of fresh linen. Together, they create a chilling, solemn blend that permeates every corner of the small, enclosed space, clinging to your clothes, settling in the back of your throat, a poignant, unmistakable smell of finality. You feel a profound, bone-deep chill that has nothing to do with the sun or the shifting earth. This is the coldness of ancient stone, the pervasive, damp chill of a space sealed off from the living world. It radiates from the rough, uneven walls around you, seeping upwards from the stone slab beneath your feet, clinging to your skin, making the small hairs on your arms stand on end. The air itself feels stagnant, unmoving, as if time itself has paused within this sacred, silent chamber, preserving every molecule, every mournful fragrance. You shiver, not just from the cold, but from the unsettling weight of the atmosphere, a heavy cloak of grief and quiet reverence. You reach out, your fingers brushing against the smooth, cold surface of the rock, feeling the subtle imperfections, the natural coolness that seems to absorb all warmth. The darkness here is not the bruised, chaotic blackness of the sky from before. This is a profound, absolute darkness, a deep, silent void that seems to press in on your eyes, robbing you of all sight, leaving only the heightened sensations of smell and touch. The pervasive scent of myrrh, usually associated with life and healing, here carries a somber, heavy undertone of embalming, of preparation for eternal rest, its sweetness almost suffocating in the enclosed space. The crisp, clean smell of linen, usually a sign of freshness and newness, now carries a poignant echo of wrapping, of burial shrouds. It's a sensory paradox, a clash of life and death, hope and finality, all contained within the confined, cold space. You take a deep, involuntary breath, and the pungent mix fills your lungs, chilling them from the inside out, settling into the very essence of your being. The profound quiet is broken only by the faint, distant sound of your own heart, a slow, heavy beat that echoes hollowly in the stillness, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence that surrounds you. This cold, sealed tomb, permeated by the powerful, solemn scents of myrrh and linen, is not just a resting place. It's a living monument to an undeniable, unalterable end, a tangible embrace of death's ultimate chilling embrace. A crushing, invisible weight settles upon your chest, heavier and colder than any stone. It's not just the chill of the tomb now, but a profound, internal pressure that squeezes your lungs, making each shallow breath a weary, almost pointless effort. You feel it sink deep into your bones, the suffocating weight of grief and utter defeat that has materialized out of the heavy air, palpable and absolute, pinning you in place within this sealed, silent chamber. All energy, all will, All striving seems to drain from your very core, leaving behind an unbearable emptiness, a cold, hollow ache that vibrates through every fiber of your being. The pervasive, solemn scent of myrrh and linen, once distinct, now merges into a single, overwhelming aroma of finality, thick and almost nauseating. It coats your tongue, a bitter, chalky film that mirrors the profound despair lodged in your throat. Your limbs feel impossibly heavy, leaden, and unresponsive, as if the cold, hard rock of the tomb has somehow seeped into your muscles, turning them to stone. You try to lift your hand to brush away the phantom dust, but the effort feels monumental, pointless, and your arm remains slumped, burdened by this crushing, unseen force. The absolute darkness, which had been merely the absence of light, now feels like an active, consuming entity, pressing in on your eyes, invading your mind. It reflects not vision, but the bleak, desolate landscape of your own inner world, a vast, echoing void where hope once flickered. You feel a dull, insistent throbbing behind your temples, a faint echo of all the world's pain, now distilled into this personal, inescapable sorrow. Each slow, heavy beat of your heart, a lonely drum in the profound quiet, seems to resonate with the overwhelming finality, the shattering of every expectation, every dream that once breathed life into your weary spirit. You are acutely aware of the rough, cold stone beneath you, its unyielding surface, a stark, brutal reminder of the world's indifference, the permanence of this end. There's a peculiar numbness settling over your skin, a detachment from external sensation, as if your body itself is retreating inwards, shutting down under the sheer magnitude of loss. This isn't just sadness. It's the profound, annihilating silence of utter defeat, a complete and irreversible surrender that leaves you hollowed out, utterly drained and trapped within the suffocating, cold embrace of an unanswerable grief. You are left with nothing but the unbearable, crushing weight, the absolute, undeniable end of all things. A faint, muffled echo of whispers reaches you, barely discernible, yet undeniably present in the heavy, still air. It's a hushed, furtive sound, like dry leaves rustling in a closed space, suggesting a desperate, collective need for secrecy. You are in a locked upper room, the air thick with the faint, lingering scent of stale bread, olive oil, and unwashed bodies, a sharp contrast to the funerary aromas of before. The room is dim, lit only by the flickering glow of a single oil lamp, its faint light casting long, dancing shadows that seem to distort every familiar object, making the shadows themselves feel alive, watchful. You feel the rough, cool texture of a simple wooden table under your fingertips, its surface smooth from countless meals and countless hands. It's a grounding sensation, a small anchor in the swirling unease that permeates the room. The whispers, though still unclear, carry an undertone of anxiety, of deep-seated fear. You can sense the tension radiating from the huddled figures around you, their bodies drawn tight, their movements cautious and slow, as if any sudden motion might betray their hidden presence. Every creak of the old wooden floor, every shift of weight, feels amplified, unnaturally loud in the oppressive stillness that surrounds the quiet murmur of voices. You catch glimpses of faces in the shifting lamplight, drawn and weary, etched with a shared grief and a profound, palpable apprehension. Eyes dart towards the heavy, bolted door, then to the small, shuttered window, a nervous, habitual gesture. It's the look of people who expect danger, who are acutely aware of the perilous world outside these thick protective walls. You can almost taste the fear, a dry, metallic tang at the back of your throat, mingling with the stale air and the lingering scent of old food. The fear itself seems to breathe, exhaling a cold vapor that settles over your skin, making you shiver. The whispers rise and fall in a soft, undulating rhythm, a clandestine conversation weaving its way through the small, enclosed space. It's not the clamor of the marketplace, nor the solemn hum of the courtyard. This is a sound born of vulnerability, of desperate hope clinging to the edges of despair. You feel the weight of unspoken thoughts, the burden of shared secrets, pressing in from all sides, making the air feel denser, heavier. The echo of whispers in this locked upper room isn't just a sound. It's a living testament to a community fractured by loss, unified by terror, and clinging precariously to a fragile, dangerous hope. Their words, a lifeline against the overwhelming tide of a world forever changed. The hushed whispers from before have sharpened, gaining a new, urgent intensity. They dart through the stale air of the locked room, no longer just a vague murmur of anxiety, but fragmented sentences, half-formed thoughts, each one a desperate attempt to grasp at the unraveling edges of memory. You feel the collective strain, a palpable mental effort radiating from the huddled figures, as if each person is trying to conjure a complete picture from shattered glass. The scent of fear, mixed with old bread, is now tinged with something sharper, almost acrid. The smell of minds in overdrive, straining under the weight of unthinkable events. You watch their faces, illuminated fitfully by the flickering oil lamp. Their eyes, once wide with shock, are now narrowed in concentration, darting from one speaker to another, trying to piece together a fragmented narrative. A hand gestures wildly, then drops, frustrated. A head shakes slowly, conveying a profound disbelief that defies words. You feel the raw, open wound of their trauma pulsing in the room, making it difficult to breathe, the shared grief a heavy, suffocating blanket that dampens every attempt at logical thought. Each memory, each detail recalled, seems to bring with it a fresh wave of that agony, making the search for meaning an inherently painful process. The conversations are not linear. They loop. They contradict. They pause in moments of stark, bewildered silence. Someone remembers a look, another a gesture, a third a particular word, and they try to fit these disparate pieces together, like fragments of an impossible puzzle. You can almost hear the gears turning in their minds, the desperate search for coherence. The memory of the Aramaic cry, still echoing in your own soul, is debated, replayed silently, its meaning shifting with each tentative retelling. Was it truly abandonment, or was it a question? The subtle nuances are lost, or perhaps willfully ignored, in the overwhelming need for a clear, definitive understanding. You feel a growing sense of urgency, an almost physical ache to connect these dots, to find a pattern in the chaos. The cool, rough table beneath your hand feels like the only solid thing in a world that has fractured into incomprehensible pieces. You perceive the delicate, perilous process unfolding before you, how the shared experience, filtered through individual trauma and collective desperation, is slowly, inevitably being molded into a story that, in its very construction, risks losing the intricate, agonizing truth of the original moment. Each sigh, each hesitant voice, each desperate glance contributes to this fragile, evolving narrative. It's a collective act of creation and remembrance, a desperate human attempt to reclaim control from the jaws of the unfathomable. You realize that this isn't just about recalling facts. It's about forging a meaning strong enough to withstand the devastating impact of what they witnessed. They are not merely remembering. They are constructing, out of memory and trauma, a new foundation of belief, a foundation that will carry them forward, but which may also fundamentally change everything. A soft, rhythmic scratching fills the quiet room, a dry, whispery sound that feels both delicate and profoundly important. You watch as a hand, steady and deliberate, guides a reed pen across a sheet of carefully prepared papyrus, the ink leaving dark, permanent trails on the rough, fibrous surface. The air carries the faint, sweet and sour scent of the ink, mingling with the dry, papery aroma of the scroll itself, a smell that speaks of ancient records and timeless truths being captured in this very moment. You are not just observing words being written. You are witnessing the genesis of a narrative, feeling the tangible texture of a woven gospel begin to take form, thread by careful thread. Around you, other figures lean in, their faces etched with a profound mix of concentration, memory, and an almost desperate need for clarity. They speak in low, hushed tones, recalling fragments, correcting details, their voices like the careful plucking of harp strings, each note contributing to a larger, intricate melody. You hear familiar phrases, events you yourself witnessed, recounted, and then subtly, almost imperceptibly, refined. A gesture, a look, a nuance of a moment is weighed, discussed, then set down with a new, definitive certainty that wasn't present in the raw, chaotic experience of it. You feel a strange, almost unsettling current ripple through the room. It's the feel of a story changing, of memory being distilled, edited, and given a new, unwavering form. What was once a searing personal agony, a bewildering public spectacle, is now being carefully crafted into a coherent, compelling account. You watch as a question, specifically that agonizing Aramaic cry of profound despair that still echoes in your soul, is articulated, considered, and then, with quiet agreement, solidified into a profound, undeniable statement. The original ambiguity, the raw, questioning tone, is gently, almost imperceptibly, smoothed away, replaced by a declarative certainty that reframes the entire narrative. The dry scrape of the pen continues, methodical and relentless, each stroke a step further away from the raw, lived experience, and a step closer to a new, authoritative truth. You understand, with a chilling clarity, that these marks on papyrus are not just recordings. They are acts of interpretation, acts of definition. The very foundation of understanding, the bedrock of belief, is being meticulously laid here, word by carefully chosen word, shaping the past into a future that will echo through generations. This woven gospel, you realize, is not just a recounting. It is a profound transformation, and you feel the weight of that alteration, a quiet tremor of immense significance, settle deep within your chest. The air in the small, lamplit room, already heavy with the scent of old oil and unspoken grief, suddenly thickens with a new kind of intensity. You feel it in your chest, a strange, internal pressure, as the hesitant whispers that filled the space abruptly gain a collective, undeniable momentum. A voice, clear and resonant, speaks the Aramaic phrase that has echoed in your mind since that terrible day, the desperate cry of suffering you witnessed on the hill. But as the words hang in the air, you hear, with a chilling clarity, a subtle yet profound alteration in their meaning, an almost imperceptible reshaping of the very soul of that sound. You feel a cold knot tighten in your stomach, a deep, unsettling unease that has nothing to do with the physical chill of the room. The raw, human anguish you understood then, the cry of solidarity and suffering that resonated with your own deepest fears of abandonment, is being subtly yet irrevocably altered. You watch as hands, previously gesticulating in uncertainty, now fall to rest with a new somber certainty. Eyes that once held confusion now gaze with a dawning, almost painful conviction. The questioning inflection, the agonizing plea you felt in every fiber of that moment, is slowly, painstakingly being smoothed out, replaced by a declarative, absolute statement of divine separation. The scribe, whose reed pen had been poised over the papyrus, now presses down with a deliberate, firm hand. Each stroke of ink against the fibrous surface feels heavy, final, as if etching this new interpretation onto the very fabric of existence. You hear the rustle of robes as some figures shift, their acceptance of this refined understanding palpable, almost solemn. What was a man crying out in shared human agony to his God, a profound connection across the chasm of pain, is transformed, here, in this quiet, secret room, into something else entirely. A cosmic pronouncement of ultimate, isolated abandonment. A son forsaken by his father. Your breath catches. You taste the metallic tang of an irreversible truth being forged, not from the raw, chaotic experience, but from the desperate need for order, for theological structure. The universal resonance of a shared human cry, the understanding that anyone suffering could utter such a lament, is being carefully, meticulously, lifted from the common ground of humanity and elevated into a unique, divine event. You feel the immense, world-altering gravity of this shift, a quiet thunderclap echoing through your soul. This is more than just memory. It is the genesis of doctrine, a powerful, defining moment where a profound misunderstanding takes root, altering not just a story, but the very foundation of belief, casting a long, eternal shadow across the path of generations to come. A gentle, inviting warmth radiates from the center of the room, a palpable comfort that immediately softens the lingering chill of fear and grief in your bones. It's the distinct, wholesome scent of fresh, yeasty bread, just baked, mingling with the earthy aroma of olive oil and the faint, sweet perfume of wine. This isn't the stale, anxious air of the locked-upper room anymore. This is the comforting, almost sacred warmth of shared bread in a secret house church, a living, breathing sanctuary in a hostile world. You feel the rough, familiar texture of a simple earthenware cup as it's passed to you. Still warm from human touch, its smooth rim cool against your lips as you take a measured sip of the dark, rich wine. The taste is earthy, sweet, and deeply grounding, a sharp contrast to the bitter gall of before, and it spreads a comforting warmth through your throat and chest. You look around, no longer seeing faces etched with terror, but with a quiet, profound reverence, their eyes soft with a shared purpose, a renewed sense of belonging. The flickering lamplight plays across their features, illuminating expressions of peace, strength, and unwavering faith, transforming the dim space into a haven of light and spiritual solace. A piece of warm, fragrant bread is broken and offered to you. You take it, feeling its soft, yielding texture in your palm, its heat, a small, living ember against your skin. The taste is simple, pure, and utterly nourishing, a profound antidote to the metaphorical bitterness that had coated your tongue for so long. As you chew, slowly, deliberately, you feel a deep internal sigh of release, a quiet surrender to the communal spirit that fills the room. The hushed voices now speak not of fear or interpretation, but of fellowship, of remembrance, of stories told and retold with a steadfast, unifying conviction. The soft murmur of prayers, almost sung in their rhythm, fills the air, a gentle, rising tide of devotion that wraps around you like a warm embrace. You feel the presence of others close by, their shoulders brushing against yours, their shared breath a silent, powerful testament to unity. This isn't just a meal. It's a sacred ritual, a communal act of faith that binds you together, forging an unbreakable bond against the backdrop of a dangerous, uncertain world. The warmth of shared bread, the taste of wine, the quiet murmur of prayers. They are not just sensory details. They are the very essence of this secret house church, a powerful, palpable symbol of enduring hope, unwavering belief, and a community finding strength and profound comfort in their unwavering, shared spiritual connection. A deep, resonant certainty settles within you, a warmth spreading from your chest that feels more potent than the mere comfort of shared bread and wine. It's a conviction that seems to solidify the very air in the secret room, pushing back against the lingering shadows of doubt and sorrow that have clung to you since that terrible day. You perceive a profound shift in the way the lamplight now catches the eyes of those around you, no longer merely reflective of shared grief, but burning with an inner, defiant fire, a resolute purpose that had been absent before. You feel a surge of strength, a quiet, powerful energy that seems to flow from person to person, connecting you all in an unbreakable current. The taste of the wine, still on your tongue, is no longer just earthy and comforting. It's now infused with a bold, almost triumphant flavor, a taste of unwavering resolve. Your posture, which had been slumped with defeat, imperceptibly straightens, a new backbone forming from this collective burgeoning understanding. This isn't just about enduring an unspeakable tragedy. No, this is about a God who conquered, not simply endured. The murmurs in the room, previously hesitant and searching, now carry a forceful, unified cadence. You hear phrases repeated, not as questions but as declarations, spoken with a conviction that silences any lingering ambiguity. The suffering, the agony, the very cry of despair that echoed through the Aramaic and twisted into a statement of abandonment, all of it is now recontextualized, rewoven into a larger, more powerful narrative. It wasn't an ultimate defeat, you realize, feeling the profound shift in your very core. It was a strategic, necessary moment, a profound sacrifice that served as the undeniable prelude to an ultimate, divine triumph. The darkness, the earthquake, the tearing of the veil, these weren't just signs of chaos, but of immense, world-shaking power, of a cosmic battle fought and irrevocably won. You sense the collective agreement solidifying around you, palpable and heavy, yet radiating a powerful, liberating energy. A hand clenches, not in fear, but in resolute strength. A head nods, not in resignation, but in profound, unwavering belief. The story, as it's now being shaped in this intimate secret gathering, isn't about a God who merely suffered alongside humanity. but a God who actively, decisively, and powerfully overcame death itself, shattering its chains. This new understanding, vibrant and potent, transforms the entire landscape of your belief, elevating the raw, human agony you witnessed into a divine act of ultimate conquest. You feel the weight of this truth, profound and undeniable, settle deep within your spirit, a new foundation laid, a powerful, eternal hope, born from the ashes of perceived defeat. The pervasive, dusty heat of Jerusalem has given way to a sharper, more biting wind, carrying with it the scent of distant mountains and something else, the cold, metallic tang of an empire's reach. Beneath your sandals, the ground is no longer the chaotic, shifting grit of the city, but a meticulously laid surface of large, unyielding stone. It's a Roman road, stretching endlessly, purposefully, into the horizon, each block fitted with a precision that speaks of immense power and an iron will. You feel its cold, hard presence radiating upwards, chilling your feet, a stark, undeniable symbol of imperial dominance. With every step you take, you feel the deliberate, unyielding nature of this engineered path. There's no soft give, no familiar comfort of packed earth. Instead, it's a relentless, even surface that guides you, almost forces you, in a singular, predetermined direction. The air, though cleaner here, is filled with the faint, rhythmic sound of distant marching feet, the clang of legionary armor, and the creak of heavy carts laden with goods, all moving with an organized, efficient purpose. It's the sound of a vast, unfeeling machinery in motion, the relentless march of an empire's will. You pass impressive stone markers, carved with Latin inscriptions, their cold, hard surfaces reflecting the pale sunlight, their words proclaiming distances, territories, and the unshakable authority of Rome. The architecture around you, too, shifts from the organic, winding chaos of Jerusalem's alleys to the severe geometric order of Roman structures, imposing arches, aqueducts stretching into the distance, watchtowers standing sentinel. These are not buildings grown from the land, but imposed upon it, concrete manifestations of an unyielding power. You feel a profound sense of the vastness and permanence of this empire, a power that crushes dissent, assimilates cultures, and dictates reality with an unflinching hand. The cold, hard stone of the road itself feels like a vein of that power, running through the land, connecting disparate corners of the world under one absolute rule. It is a pathway not just for travelers, but for armies, for decrees, for an unyielding ideology. This isn't just a physical road. It's a direct, palpable conduit to the heart of Roman might, a cold, hard stone of a Roman road to power, and you feel the immense, imposing weight of that power, absolute and unyielding, pressing down on the very landscape and the trajectory of history itself. As you walk the cold, hard stone of the Roman road, each step taking you further from the dusty, chaotic heart of Jerusalem, a strange, subtle blurring begins in your memory. The immediate, searing agony you witnessed on the hill, the raw, visceral details of suffering etched so deeply into your mind, they start to recede, not vanishing, but softening at the edges, like an old fresco slowly losing its sharp contours. The brutal, splintered roughness of the crossbeam, the burning of every step, the white-hot agony that redefined pain itself. These sensations, once so overwhelmingly present, now feel distant, almost abstract, as if viewed through a heavy, diffusing veil. You try to hold on to the sharp, metallic tang of fear, the pungent mix of livestock and dread, but even those distinct smells now blend into a more generalized, sanitized memory of the city. The relentless, unforgiving glare of the midday sun is no longer an active tormentor, but a hazy, powerful light, less personal, more symbolic. The profound silence, the rumble of the earth, the tearing of the veil, they are remembered now with a sense of awe and divine power, rather than the raw, human terror they first evoked. The specific, intimate details of the man's physical struggle, his expressions of pain, the vulnerability in his eyes, become less vivid, less immediate, slowly fading from your direct, sensory grasp. You hear the voices of others walking beside you, their discussions about him now filled with grander, more definitive pronouncements. They speak of his ultimate triumph, his divine power, his conquest over death, their words echoing the new understanding forged in the secret house church. The raw Aramaic cry of despair, which had torn your soul, is recalled now not as a question of shared suffering, but as a weighty, undeniable statement of divine separation, a powerful theological truth. You feel the tangible absence of his human frailty in their retelling, replaced by an image of stoic, unblemished strength. The cold, precise stone of the Roman road beneath your feet reflects this transformation. It is a path for order, for empire, for a structured narrative that leaves little room for the messy, vulnerable aspects of human experience. You notice how the story, as it's carried and disseminated along this unyielding route, becomes polished, monumental, less about the man who stumbled and cried out, and more about the powerful, divine figure who fulfilled an epic destiny. The shared bread still feels warm, but the hand that broke it, the intimate, human gestures of compassion, are becoming less tangible, less directly felt, transforming into a grander, more iconic symbolism. This isn't a loss of belief, you realize, but a profound, almost unconscious resculpting of it. The sensation of a vulnerable, human Jesus is subtly, almost imperceptibly, fading, replaced by an imposing, divinely powerful figure. His suffering is remembered, yes, but through a lens of ultimate victory, making his humanity a necessary, but ultimately less emphasized, precursor to his celestial glory. You feel the weight of this transformation in the very air, a quiet, inexorable shift that reshapes not just memory, but the entire trajectory of faith, moving it from the intimate agony of a man to the monumental power of a conquering God. A thick, cloying cloud of incense immediately envelops you, its sweet, smoky tendrils filling your nostrils, coating your tongue, and settling deep in your lungs. This isn't the subtle, earthy aroma of Jerusalem, nor the humble scent of a house church. No, this is an overpowering, rich, almost suffocating perfume, a sensory declaration of grandeur and ritual, a scent that demands reverence. You stand within the vast, echoing space of a grand basilica, its immense stone walls rising far above you, adorned with shimmering mosaics and intricate carvings that gleam in the filtered stained glass light. The air itself feels ancient, heavy with centuries of devotion, prayer, and countless layers of this potent, sacred fragrance. You feel the cold, polished marble beneath your feet, a smooth, unyielding surface that stretches endlessly, reflecting the dim, colored light like still water. The sheer scale of the space is overwhelming, making you feel small, insignificant. Your own footsteps, usually audible, are swallowed by the vastness, lost in the echoing silence that occasionally breaks with the faint rhythmic clang of a thurible swinging, sending fresh waves of the intoxicating scent into the air. Each resonant clang seems to vibrate through the very stones, a slow, deliberate heartbeat of ritual. Your eyes, accustomed to the bright, open sky, struggle to adjust to the dim, sacred light. Figures in richly embroidered robes move with solemn, purposeful grace, their movements slow and deliberate, their faces serene. Their whispers are not furtive or anxious, but hushed and reverent, blending into the ethereal hum of the space, a symphony of devotion. The scent of incense, though overpowering, is strangely comforting now, a powerful, familiar balm that fills the void within, a spiritual anchor. It's an aroma of tradition, of unwavering authority, of a sacred narrative meticulously maintained and presented. The air, thick with this holy perfume, tastes of ash and ancient wood, of centuries of formalized prayer. It carries a profound sense of continuity, of an unbroken chain stretching back through time, firmly rooted in this magnificent, sacred space. This isn't a hidden gathering. It's an open declaration, a public display of power and unwavering faith. The overpowering scent of incense in this grand basilica isn't just an aroma. It's an immersive experience, a powerful, pervasive symbol of a faith that has grown, consolidated, and now presents itself with an unshakable, awe-inspiring majesty, a testimony to its own eternal, triumphant narrative. You feel enveloped, absorbed by its vast, ancient, and undeniable presence. The air in the Grand Basilica, already thick and sweet with the overpowering scent of incense, feels charged, almost electric. As your eyes slowly adjust to the dim, ethereal light filtering through distant stained-glass windows, they are inexorably drawn upwards, towards the apex of the massive, echoing space. There, dominating everything, radiating from the golden arch of the apse, is a vision that sears itself into your very soul, an image of such overwhelming majesty it steals your breath and makes your heart pound with a strange, profound awe. You are face to face with a Christ Pantocrator, larger than life, enthroned in an absolute, unyielding splendor that transcends any earthly king or emperor. The visual shock is immediate and absolute. This isn't the weary, dust-caked man who stumbled under the weight of a cross, whose pain was visceral and human. No, this figure is entirely different. Crafted from countless tiny, glittering tesserae of gold and vibrant, precious stones, the mosaic shimmers with an internal fire, each fragment reflecting the sparse light into dazzling, cold sparks. His robes are not the simple linen of a humble teacher, but cascades of deep, imperial blue and regal crimson, intricately folded, edged with what appear to be actual gleaming jewels. Emeralds, rubies, sapphires, embedded directly into the sacred art. He is seated on an elaborate, ornate throne, its immense scale emphasizing his divine dominion, a seat of unquestionable, eternal power. His face, carved with a stern, immutable gravitas, is utterly devoid of vulnerability. His eyes, immense and dark, burn with an ancient, omniscient gaze that seems to pierce directly through you, unblinking, unwavering. They see not just your outward form, but the very depths of your soul, holding a judgment that feels both distant and intimate. One massive hand is raised, not in gentle comfort or desperate plea, but in a commanding blessing, or perhaps a solemn, final judgment that brooks no argument. In his other hand, a jeweled book, weighty with eternal law, is held closed. Its very presence, a silent assertion of absolute, unchallengeable authority over all creation. You feel an intense, almost physical pressure, a profound sense of your own smallness in the face of such colossal, majestic divinity. The cold, polished marble beneath your feet, the heavy, sweet scent of incense, the echoing, hushed reverence of the robed figures around you. Every detail serves to amplify this overwhelming, untouchable image. There is no echo of a human cry of despair here, no hint of a God who suffered alongside humanity. Instead, you are confronted by a deity of absolute conquering might, a Christ far removed from the human frailty that once touched the dusty streets of Jerusalem. This visual shock solidifies everything, inscribing into your very perception a new, unshakable truth, that the story has been utterly transformed from a human journey of profound solidarity to a divine, unassailable triumph, majestic, eternal, and an image of unparalleled, unapproachable power. The heavy, sweet scent of incense in the Grand Basilica is no longer just an aroma. It feels like a physical presence, a thick, palpable dust that has settled over everything. It coats your tongue, fine and dry, a metallic sweet flavor that implies not just air but ancient, immutable pronouncements. This is the feel of imperial dogma settling like dust, a pervasive, inescapable layer that covers every surface, every thought, shaping the very atmosphere of belief. You feel it in the solemn, quiet hum that fills the vast space, a collective acceptance, a deep, resonant certainty that brooks no deviation. You run a hand over the cold, polished marble of a nearby column. Its surface, smooth and unyielding, is somehow still coated with this invisible, conceptual dust, absorbing the weight of centuries of formalized truth. The air itself feels heavy with it, a pressure against your skin, a subtle but insistent force that guides your gaze, your posture, your very thoughts. The intricate mosaics and gleaming jewels of the Christ Pantocrator above are not just images. They are pronouncements, absolute statements of power and divinity, and the dust of dogma seems to emanate from them, falling softly, constantly, over the assembled faithful. The figures in richly embroidered robes move with a rhythmic, measured cadence, their movements precise, their expressions serene, almost devoid of personal emotion. They are living vessels for this dogma, their very bodies imbued with its teachings, performing rituals that are ancient, unchangeable, and universally understood. Their hushed voices, when they speak, recite familiar phrases, creedal affirmations that echo with the weight of councils and centuries, solidifying what must be believed, leaving no room for questions or individual interpretation. You feel a subtle, chilling resignation settle within your own spirit. The raw, human experience, the personal agony, the intimate question of suffering that once gripped your soul, all of it now feels distant, almost irrelevant, subsumed by the grand, unyielding narrative. The sharp, bitter taste of the original event, the confusing murmurs, the desperate cries, are now covered, smoothed over by this pervasive, unifying dust of imperial dogma. It's a powerful, comforting blanket for many, you realize, but for you, it feels like a subtle suffocation, a loss of the vibrant, messy humanity that first drew you in. This settling dust isn't just about acceptance. It's about a profound, almost unconscious assimilation, It gets into your clothes, your hair, your very pores, becoming a part of you, a filter through which all subsequent understanding must pass. This isn't a fleeting sensation. It's an enduring transformation. The feel of imperial dogma settling like dust, shaping the very contours of faith, solidifying what is true, what is absolute, and what will be believed for all eternity, leaving little space for the nuanced, vulnerable, and deeply human cries of the past. A chilling internal void opens within you, a vast, unbridgeable chasm that widens with every solemn chant echoing through the grand basilica. You feel it in the cold, unyielding marble beneath your feet, in the dense, perfumed air that seems to press down, pushing away the memory of anything less than perfect, less than divine. This isn't just a conceptual distance, it's a profound emotional separation, the chasm between a suffering man and an impassible deity. And you feel its immensity settle deep within your soul, a cold, empty space. You look up again at the towering mosaic of the Christ Pantocrator, its jeweled splendor radiating an unwavering, unapproachable power. The stern, omniscient gaze from those immense eyes no longer feels like a path to shared empathy, but a profound, unfeeling judgment, a detached observation from an unreachable height. The shimmering gold and precious stones, once merely opulent, now feel like a protective barrier, elevating the divine figure far beyond the dust, sweat, and agony of human existence. The very notion of a God who could genuinely cry out in raw human despair, who could feel the biting sting of abandonment, seems utterly incompatible with this majestic, impassible image. The chanted words, rich and resonant, fill the air, reinforcing this separation. They speak of divine perfection, of ultimate triumph, of a God who knew no weakness, who orchestrated his own suffering as a predetermined act of cosmic conquest. The visceral memory of the splintered crossbeam, the burning steps, the white-hot agony that tore through flesh and bone. These images are not erased, but they are recontextualized, transformed into mere stages in a grand divine drama, losing their intimate, terrifying humanity. The raw, human sound of despair, the Aramaic cry that echoed in Jerusalem, is now swallowed by the soaring, ethereal harmonies of the choir, its desperate question definitively recast as a statement of necessary, divine separation. You feel a profound sense of loss, a quiet ache that resonates in your chest, in stark contrast to the triumphant, unshakable faith that surrounds you. The comforting warmth of shared bread from the secret house church, the solidarity born of mutual vulnerability, feels distant, almost quaint, in the face of this overwhelming, unblemished divinity. You realize that the very essence of suffering, its raw, unedited truth, has been meticulously cleansed, purified, and elevated into a theological necessity, leaving behind an image of God that is powerful, awe-inspiring, but profoundly remote. This isn't merely a difference in understanding, it's a fundamental divergence, a spiritual canyon opening between two distinct realities. You are left contemplating the immense unfillable chasm between a suffering man, vulnerable and tragically human, and an impassible deity, powerful, perfect, and utterly beyond the reach of genuine human anguish. It's a gap that has grown over centuries, solidified by dogma and grandeur, and as you stand in the overwhelming presence of the Pantocrator, you feel its cold, lonely expanse stretch out before you, forever altering your perception of the divine and the human. The vast space of the Grand Basilica, already thick with the sweet, heavy scent of incense, now pulses with a new, overwhelming vibration. It begins as a low hum, a deep, collective breath, then swells into a single, majestic wave of sound, the resonant sound of a creed chanted in unison. It's not a choir singing, nor individual voices speaking. It's a living, breathing entity of sound, a unified proclamation that emanates from every corner of the immense hall, vibrating through the cold, polished marble beneath your feet, up your legs, and deep into your very core. You feel the solemnity of it in your chest, a powerful, rhythmic pressure that seems to align your own heartbeat with the collective pulse of the multitude. The air itself is charged, not with fear or confusion, but with an unshakable, absolute certainty. The words, ancient and carefully chosen, are pronounced with a precision that brooks no argument, each syllable imbued with centuries of theological weight and communal affirmation. You may not understand every single word of the Latin, but the unwavering conviction, the sheer, undeniable power of the unified sound transcends language. It feels like an unbreakable chain, linking every soul present into a single, harmonious, believing whole. You look around at the hundreds, perhaps thousands, gathered here. Their heads are bowed, then raised in perfect synchronicity, their lips moving in silent or softly audible imitation of the chant leader. Their faces, illuminated by the dim, filtered light from the stained glass windows, reflect a profound, shared faith, a peace born of absolute conviction. There's no trace here of the individual doubts, the raw agony, or the confused murmurs that once plagued the hidden upper room. Those fractured memories have been meticulously woven into this seamless, unassailable narrative, solidifying into an eternal truth. The overpowering scent of incense, already pervasive, seems to deepen with each chanted phrase, becoming the very breath of this unified belief. It's a sensory balm, a spiritual anchor that drowns out the faint, lingering echo of a suffering man's desperate cry. The visual shock of the enthroned Christ Pantocrator, glittering with jewels and gold, seems to absorb the sound, transforming it into a divine resonance, an affirmation of his impassable glory, his ultimate triumph. The chasm between human suffering and divine power, once a gaping void, is now spanned, seemingly, by the unyielding bridge of this chanted creed. You feel a profound sense of the immense strength in this unity, a power that has built empires and shaped civilizations. This resonant sound of a creed chanted in unison isn't just an act of worship. It's a declaration, a monumental testament to a faith that has grown from humble, fearful beginnings into an unshakable, world-altering force. It is the voice of an institution, vast and eternal, speaking with one voice, one truth, forever defining the understanding of a story whose most vulnerable human cries have been carefully, irrevocably transformed into statements of divine, triumphant, absolute certainty. The resonant sound of the creed, chanted in unison, now feels less like a simple sound and more like a physical force, pressing down on you, shaping the very air you breathe. It's a rhythmic, inescapable weight, the undeniable solidification of misinterpretation into infallible truth. You feel it in the deep, vibrational hum of the basilica's colossal stone, in the almost palpable pressure that emanates from the glittering mosaic of the Christ Pantocrator, an absolute, unshakable certainty radiating from every golden tessera. You perceive the subtle yet profound shift in the very atmosphere of belief. The questions, the doubts, the raw human agony you once witnessed, these have not simply faded, they have been absorbed, compressed, and hardened into an unyielding dogma. The original Aramaic cry of profound human despair, once a resonant, agonizing question, now echoes in your mind, not as a query, but as an absolute divine statement of ultimate abandonment. This reframing is no longer open to debate. It is an intrinsic part of the unshakable truth being chanted, absorbed, and revered. The overpowering scent of incense, once a sweet balm, now feels like a powerful preservative, locking this interpretation in place, rendering it immutable, eternal. It coats your throat, a metallic sweet flavor that implies the finality of pronouncements, the definitive nature of this sacred understanding. You look at the faces around you, their expressions serene, their eyes holding a deep, unquestioning faith. There is no individual struggle for meaning here, no room for nuance or alternative perspectives. The communal act of chanting the creed has forged a single, impenetrable truth, eliminating all ambiguity, all vulnerability. You feel a profound, chilling sense of the immense power of collective belief, the capacity for a shared narrative to become so absolute, so sacrosanct, that its very origins are subsumed by its weight. The chasm between the suffering man and the impassible deity, which once felt like a stark, painful separation, is now rendered irrelevant, bridged by the unyielding force of this definitive truth. His agony is no longer a shared human experience, but a necessary, divinely ordained act within a larger, triumphant plan, meticulously unfolded and irrevocably codified. This is not just about remembering a story. It's about forging the very foundations of faith, constructing a reality so solid, so complete, that it resists all challenge. You feel the immense, transformative weight of this solidification, a quiet thunderclap echoing through time, cementing a specific understanding that will endure for centuries, shaping countless lives. The once fragile interpretation, born of trauma and a desperate need for meaning, has become an infallible truth, an unalterable bedrock upon which an entire civilization will build its spiritual world, forever changed by how those final words were, profoundly and irrevocably, understood. The deep, resonant chant of the basilica fades, swallowed by an abrupt, almost jarring silence. Then, a new kind of light flickers into being around you, sharp and insistent, casting a cool, almost sterile glow on your face. It's the stark, artificial glare of modern screens, a ubiquitous, pulsing blue-white that illuminates not ancient stone but sleek, synthetic surfaces. You feel the smooth, cool glass of a tablet under your fingertips, its texture utterly alien to the rough papyrus and cold marble of previous eras. The air, devoid of incense or dust, carries the faint, clean scent of electronics, a subtle, almost imperceptible hum of data and information. You find yourself in a space that is both intimate and vast, surrounded by countless other individuals, each entranced by their own personal glowing rectangles. Your eyes, now accustomed to the dim, sacred spaces of the past, are assaulted by the crisp, high-definition images that swim across the screen, sharp and unblinking. It's an ancient tale, playing out with a vivid, almost hyper-real clarity. You see familiar scenes, dusty roads, the crowded marketplace, the Roman courtyard, the hill of crucifixion. But they are filtered, edited, enhanced, presented with a polished perfection that never truly existed. You scroll, swipe, and zoom, effortlessly navigating through a torrent of information. The story unfolds with a rapid, controlled pace, each frame a meticulously constructed image, each word a carefully selected caption. The agony you once felt so viscerally, the coarse grit underfoot, the splintered crossbeam, the burning steps. These are now visual cues, stunningly rendered but curiously detached. The raw, human despair, the Aramaic cry, is presented as a powerful, dramatic statement, its interpretation solidified, unchallenged, reiterated by countless voices in comments and articles. The glare of these modern screens reflects an ancient tale, but it's a tale that has been endlessly reprocessed, repackaged, and represented for a global, digital audience. You feel a strange sense of temporal displacement, observing how easily centuries of interpretation, doctrine, and dogma are compressed, summarized, and transmitted at the speed of light. The chasm between the suffering man and the impassible deity, once spanned by weighty creeds, now feels like a fixed, unalterable truth, projected onto a million screens simultaneously, its message absolute and undeniable. This isn't just about passive viewing, it's about active engagement, instant access, boundless dissemination. You click a link, watch a short video, read a comment, and with each interaction, the ancient narrative is reinforced, its current interpretation amplified and solidified. The sheer volume of information, the constant stream of content, becomes its own kind of overwhelming incense, an all-pervasive digital dogma. You are not just a witness, you are a participant in the continuous, evolving, retelling, absorbing the luminous, undeniable truth as presented by the omnipresent, unblinking glare of modern screens, reflecting an ancient tale that continues to shape the world precisely as it has been interpreted. The cool, sterile glare of the modern screens continues to wash over you, its relentless light projecting an ancient tale now sharpened and refined by centuries of belief. You feel a subtle yet profound shift in the very core of this narrative, a silent, almost imperceptible reorientation that has redefined its essence. It's a Christianity defined by victory over pain, not by presence within it, and you feel the weight of this distinction settle deep within your spirit, a cold, unyielding truth. As you scroll through countless images and texts, you notice how the suffering, once so raw and immediate, is consistently presented as a means to an end, a strategic step towards an ultimate triumph. The splintered crossbeam, the burning steps, the white-hot agony, these are no longer poignant symbols of shared human vulnerability. Instead, they are the necessary trials, the divinely ordained obstacles on a predetermined path to ultimate glory. The emotional resonance of a suffering man, crying out in an Aramaic question of despair, is smoothed over, replaced by a powerful, victorious statement of divine separation, an unshakable declaration of cosmic conquest. The pervasive, clean scent of electronics, the hum of data, and the rapid-fire dissemination of information reinforce this narrative of power and success. There is little room here for ambiguity, for doubt, for the messy, often contradictory experiences of human anguish. Instead, the message is clear, absolute, and profoundly appealing. A God who transcends pain, who actively defeats it, rather than one who fully inhabits and understands its depths from within. The triumphant return, the eternal reign, the promise of ultimate victory, these are the dominant themes, projected with dazzling clarity across the modern screens. You perceive a chasm, not just between the suffering man and the impassible deity, But now, a chasm between the lived experience of human pain and the theological framework that seeks to explain and ultimately conquer it. The very idea of a God deeply present in human weakness, suffering alongside rather than merely transcending, feels almost foreign in this triumphant landscape. The comfort offered is not one of shared burden, but of assured conquest, a promise of ultimate liberation from pain itself, rather than a profound solidarity within its grip. This isn't merely a shift in emphasis. It's a fundamental redefinition of the divine relationship with humanity's deepest hurts. You feel the immense, transformative power of this interpretation, solidifying through every click, every share, every digital affirmation. A Christianity defined by victory over pain, not presence within it, is not just a theological concept. It's a living, breathing reality, shaping modern faith, providing answers, and offering a distinct kind of hope, one that irrevocably transforms the meaning of those ancient, final words, carrying their interpreted truth into a new, technologically advanced age, forever altering the landscape of belief. A cold, aching emptiness settles in the pit of your stomach, a distinct sensation of profound disconnect that arises sharply in the face of personal tragedy. The sterile, distant glow of the modern screen, once a source of comforting narratives, now feels alien, its triumphant stories jarring against the raw, unedited pain that floods your own spirit. The air, usually filled with the subtle hum of technology, now seems impossibly quiet, amplifying the insistent, internal throb of a grief that refuses to be neatly categorized or easily conquered. You feel the weight of a recent personal loss, a heavy, suffocating blanket that drapes over every thought, every sensation. The world around you, previously vibrant with its endless stream of information, now feels muted, dull, as if a vital hue has been drained from its palate. The stories of ultimate victory, of a God who conquers pain, now ring hollow. Your own agony, a sharp, burning wound, resists assimilation into a grand, triumphant narrative. There is no strategic step towards glory here, only the crushing, immediate reality of a loss that feels utterly unredeemed, intensely personal, and stubbornly unresolved. You instinctively reach out, touching the smooth, cool glass of the screen, seeking some kind of connection, some solace in the familiar imagery. But the dazzling jeweled Christ Pantocrator, projected with such majestic authority, seems impossibly distant, his impassive gaze offering no warmth, no shared understanding for the specific, messy grief that consumes you. The gap feels wider now, a vast, unbridgeable chasm between the perfectly rendered, victorious deity and the profound, isolating reality of your own human suffering. His ultimate triumph, so clearly articulated, offers little comfort for the immediate, bleeding wound in your soul. The constant flow of digital voices, once a chorus of affirmation, now sounds like a distant, impersonal drone, their confident pronouncements about victory and strength failing to penetrate the thick wall of your sorrow. You perceive a profound inadequacy in their words, a fundamental lack of resonance with the deep, quiet despair that has taken root within you. The very definition of a faith centered on conquering pain feels strangely alien, almost dismissive, in the face of this immediate personal tragedy. This isn't an intellectual disagreement. It's a deeply visceral, emotional response. You are experiencing a profound disconnect, a lonely alienation, as the well-meaning narratives of conquering faith collide violently with the raw, unvarnished truth of your own personal pain. The triumphant story, so carefully constructed over centuries, now feels like a polished, impenetrable surface, reflecting only its own grandiosity, failing to touch the vulnerable, bleeding heart of your present moment, leaving you isolated in the quiet, aching space of your own unconquered grief. The cold, hard ache in your stomach intensifies, a raw, almost physical emptiness that mirrors the void left by personal tragedy. The triumphant narratives of victory over pain, relentlessly streaming from the modern screens, now feel utterly hollow. Their bright, unblemished certainty incapable of piercing the heavy, suffocating blanket of your own grief. But then, as you sit in this quiet, aching space, a different sound begins to stir within your memory, faint at first, then gaining a startling, vivid clarity. It's the echo of that final question, whispered across centuries, now resonating with an urgent, profound relevance. My God, why? You feel a sudden, sharp intake of breath, a jolt that travels through your entire body. The raw, Aramaic cry, which had been softened by interpretation and muted by dogma, now springs back to life, stripped bare of all imposed meaning. It's not a statement of divine abandonment, not a strategic pronouncement in a grand cosmic plan. No, it is a question, raw and unfiltered, hurled into the indifferent void, a lament born of profound human suffering, a plea for understanding in the face of incomprehensible agony. You taste its bitterness anew, the metallic tang of despair, but now it's infused with a strange, startling sense of recognition, of profound solidarity. The overwhelming images of a majestic, impassible Christ Pantocrator, glittering with jewels, now flicker in your mind's eye, then recede, giving way to the stark, dust-choked scene on the hill. You vividly recall the splintered crossbeam, the burning steps, the white-hot agony that redefined pain, and then that cry, rising from the very depths of a broken, human spirit. It wasn't a hero in triumph, you realize with a piercing clarity. It was a man, suffering, just as you are suffering now, asking the ultimate question that every grieving soul has ever asked. You feel a profound emotional connection, a lifeline suddenly thrown across the chasm of your own personal tragedy. The disconnect, the lonely alienation you felt from the triumphant narratives, now begins to dissolve. This rehearing, this re-experiencing of that final question, brings with it not answers but something far more potent: presence. A sense of a God who understands the why, not because he transcends pain, but because he has felt its full, crushing weight, intimately and profoundly. The sterile air of the modern room seems to warm, ever so slightly, with the heat of this rediscovered empathy. The relentless glare of the screens dims, their triumphant narratives momentarily silenced by the power of this ancient human lament. You realize that sometimes the greatest comfort lies not in the answers, but in the shared, agonizing question. This rehearing of the echo of that final question, my God, why, is not just a revisiting of history. It's a profound spiritual reawakening, a radical redefinition of faith itself, grounding it not in the certainty of victory, but in the vulnerable, aching heart of shared human suffering, forever changing how you perceive both God and your own profound grief.